"We're waiting on that transfer," my mom left voicemail. "No more transfer," I replied. The next day I had 23 missing calls and 38 text messages. The email arrived on a Tuesday, nothing special about that day otherwise, just another morning of spreadsheets, client calls, and too much coffee. I almost didn't check my personal account during lunch, almost. Subject line, "OMG, did you see this?" from my cousin Melissa. The video attachment took forever to load on the office Wi-Fi, 43 seconds that changed everything. It was my family's annual Christmas gathering. Last year, the one I'd missed because of a work emergency. The emergency being that I needed to finish a project that would secure my promotion. The promotion that had been funding their lives for the past 3 years. The video started with my mother's living room, the tree, the familiar decorations, voices off camera laughing, then my brother Edward's voice, clearly drunk. "Thank God Rebecca couldn't make it, now we can actually enjoy ourselves." My stomach dropped, my sandwich sat forgotten on my desk. "She's so uptight now," my sister Carol chimed in, "acting like she's better than all of us just because she has that fancy job." Then my mother's voice, the one that used to sing me to sleep. "Well, her fancy job is paying for this Christmas dinner so I can put up with her attitude." They laughed, all of them. The camera panned, presumably held by my cousin who'd sent the video. There they were, my entire family, drinks in hand, nodding in agreement. "The funny thing is," Edward continued, "she actually thinks we want to hear about her work, like any of us care about marketing strategies or whatever the hell she does." More laughter. "But we care about her paychecks," my father added, raising his glass. "To Rebecca, our personal ATM," they toasted, "to my face, to my generosity, to the fact that I was, apparently, nothing more than a bank account to them." The video ended abruptly. Melissa's message read, "OMG, I'm so sorry, I meant to send this to my therapist to show her what I've been dealing with in this family. Please call me." I didn't call, I couldn't speak. My hands trembled as I closed my laptop. 3 years of supporting them after Dad lost his job. 3 years of sending money for Carol's kids' school supplies. 3 years of covering Edward's rent when he was between jobs. 3 years of believing we were a family that stuck together through hard times. I made it to the bathroom before throwing up. The rest of the workday passed in a blur. I smiled at colleagues. I finished my presentation. I nodded at appropriate moments during meetings, but inside I was replaying those 43 seconds on loop. Our personal ATM, the drive home was dangerous. Tears kept blurring my vision. I had to pull over twice to breathe. By the time I reached my apartment, a strange calm had settled over me. The kind that comes after a storm has destroyed everything. There's nothing left to lose. I checked my phone, 5 missed calls from Melissa, 2 from my mother, probably their monthly request for money. It was the first of the month, after all. I set the phone down without returning any calls. Instead, I opened my banking app and looked at my transaction history. The regular transfers to my family members appeared like clockwork. Mom and Dad, $1,200 month for mortgage help. Edward, $800 month for temporary rent assistance. Going on 2 years now. Carol, $500 month for the kids' needs plus the emergency requests that came between, car repairs, medical bills, school trips. In total, I'd given them over $95,000 in the past 3 years. Money that could have gone toward my own dreams. The house I wanted to buy, the master's degree I'd put on hold, the vacation I hadn't taken in 4 years. I'd been living in a 1-bedroom apartment, eating ramen twice a week to maintain my family's lifestyle. My phone rang again. "Mom." For the first time in my adult life, I didn't answer. Instead, I poured myself a glass of wine and made a decision. The ATM was closed. Morning brought clarity, and 7 new voicemails. "Rebecca, it's Mom, just checking in about this month's transfer. It hasn't come through yet. Hey sis, Edward here, got a bit of a situation with my landlord, could use an extra 300 this month, call me back. Rebecca, mom again, is everything okay? We're waiting on that transfer. Dad's blood pressure medication needs to be refilled. Each message tightened the knot in my chest. Each one confirmed what the video had shown me, not one asked how I was doing. I got ready for work methodically. Shower, clothes, coffee, like a robot performing its programmed functions, but I didn't cry again. Something had hardened inside me overnight. At lunch, I emailed my bank and canceled all recurring transfers to my family members. The relief was immediate, like setting down a heavy backpack I'd been carrying for years. Then I texted my mother, no transfer this month, need to take care of some personal financial matters. Her response came instantly, what, Rebecca, your father needs his medication, this isn't funny. I turned my phone off and finished my workday. That night, the calls escalated. My father joined in, then Carol's, then Edward. By 9 p.m., I had 23 missed calls and 38 text messages. I read them all but responded to none. How could you be so selfish? We're family. Dad could have a stroke without his medication. My landlord is threatening eviction. The guilt was suffocating. I almost caved. Almost reached for my banking app to send the money. 3 years of conditioning had trained me well. But then I remembered the video, the laughter, the toast, our personal ATM. I turned my phone off again and slept better than I had in years. A week passed. I changed my phone number, created a new email address, went temporarily dark on social media. I needed space to think, to recalibrate my understanding of family, of love, of my own worth. The following Saturday, someone buzzed my apartment. I peered through the peephole to see Edward standing there looking disheveled. My heart raced, my palms sweated, but I opened the door. What the hell, Rebecca? He pushed past me into the apartment. You changed your number? Mom is losing her mind with worry. I doubted that. I needed some space. Space? He looked incredulous. You can't just cut off your family because you need space. My landlord gave me an eviction notice yesterday. No concern for me, no questions about why I might need space, just the eviction notice, the money problem. I'm sorry to hear that, I said, and I was, despite everything. I didn't want my brother homeless. Sorry doesn't pay my rent, Rebecca. He ran his hands through his hair, exasperated. Look, whatever is going on with you, can you just send the money and then deal with your, whatever this is? That's when I knew for certain I wasn't a sister to him. I was an ATM with inconvenient emotions. I can't do that, Edward. Can't or won't. His face darkened. Because from where I'm standing, you're just being selfish, after everything this family has done for you. A laugh escaped me, hollow. What exactly has this family done for me, Edward? Raised you, support you, been there for you. He listed these like they were extraordinary acts of generosity rather than the baseline of what family should be. And in return, I've given all of you nearly $100,000 over the past 3 years. My voice was steady. Money that wasn't loaned but given, money I worked 60-hour weeks to earn. He had the decency to look uncomfortable, but only briefly. We needed it. You didn't. You don't know what I need, Edward. None of you ever asked. He scoffed. What, are your feelings hurt because we don't fawn over your fancy job? Grow up, Rebecca. That's when I told him about the video, watched his face change as I described exactly what I'd seen, what I'd heard. He tried to backpedal. We were just joking around, you know how family is after a few drinks. No, I don't know, I said, because apparently my understanding of family was completely wrong. I asked him to leave. Surprisingly, he did, but not before telling me I was making a huge mistake, that I'd regret turning my back on family. Maybe he was right, but as I closed the door behind him, I felt something unexpected, relief, like I could finally breathe again. The next day, I received an email from my mother. The subject line, "We need to talk." The message was brief. Rebecca, whatever you think you know, you're misunderstanding. We're your family. We love you. Please call me so we can sort this out. No acknowledgement of the video, no apology, just gaslighting and emotional manipulation. I didn't respond. 3 days later, a more desperate email arrived. Your father had to borrow money from his brother for his medication. Is that what you wanted, to humiliate us, to make your father beg? The guilt stabbed at me. I'd never wanted to hurt them, only to stop letting them hurt me. I wrote back a single line: Dad has a pension and Social Security. His medication costs $43 per month with his Medicare coverage. I knew this because I'd previously researched it when I started helping with their finances. They had income, not abundant but enough to cover necessities without my help. What they didn't have was enough to maintain the lifestyle they'd grown accustomed to, the lifestyle my money had been funding. My mother didn't respond to that email. A month passed. The silence from my family was both painful and peaceful. I missed them, or rather, I missed who I thought they were. I missed belonging, having people who knew my history, who shared my blood. But I didn't miss the anxiety that came with every phone call, every text message, every family gathering where I felt more like a resource than a daughter or sister. During that month, I did something revolutionary. I started spending money on myself. I booked a weekend trip to the beach. I signed up for a photography class I'd been eyeing for years. I started looking at real estate listings for my own home, not just dreaming about it. And I started therapy, because untangling yourself from people who have convinced you that their needs matter more than yours is complicated work. 6 weeks after Edward's visit, Carol showed up at my office. I was walking out after work when I spotted her sitting on a bench near the entrance, her 2 kids beside her. My heart sank. Using the children was a low blow even for them. Aunt Rebecca, 8-year-old Lily, ran toward me, arms outstretched. I hugged her tight, genuinely happy to see her. The children were innocent in all this. 5-year-old Ben followed, wrapping himself around my legs. We missed you. Mommy said you were lost, but we found you. I looked at Carol over their heads. Her expression was a practiced mix of concern and relief. We've been so worried, she said, stepping forward to hug me. I let her, but remained stiff in her embrace. You disappeared on us. I changed my phone number, I corrected, and told Mom why I wasn't sending money anymore. She winced at the direct mention of money, glancing at the kids. Can we go somewhere to talk, maybe get ice cream? She directed this last part to the children, who immediately began jumping with excitement. I agreed, not wanting to have this conversation in front of my workplace or disappoint the kids. We walked to a nearby ice cream parlor, the children chattering about school and friends, oblivious to the tension between their mother and me. After they were settled with their cones at an outdoor table where we could see them through the window, Carol got down to business. Look, I don't know what happened between you and Mom and Edward, but I saw the video, Carol. I kept my voice low. From last Christmas. Her face fell. She recovered quickly. Oh, that, we were all just joking around, Rebecca. You know how family is. The same line Edward had used, like they'd rehearsed it. Joking about me being your ATM, about only tolerating me because of my paychecks? She had the grace to look ashamed. We'd been drinking. It was stupid. Yes, it was. I stirred my melting ice cream, no longer interested in eating it. But it was also honest, the most honest any of you have been with me in years. That's not fair, she protested. We love you. Maybe you do, I conceded, but you don't respect me or care about my well-being. You only care about what I can give you. She started to object, but I cut her off. When was the last time you asked me about my life, Carol, about my dreams, my struggles? Have you ever wondered why I live in a tiny apartment while sending your kids to private gymnastics classes? Her silence was answer enough. I would have helped if you'd actually needed it, I continued. That's what family does, but you took advantage, all of you, and you didn't even have the decency to pretend to like me while doing it. Tears filled her eyes. For a moment I thought they might be genuine until she spoke. "I don't know how we're going to make it without your help, Rebecca. Ben's therapy sessions aren't covered by insurance. Lily needs braces soon." Always about the money, never about our relationship, I sighed, suddenly exhausted. "You'll figure it out, Carol, the same way other families do, budgeting, making choices, taking on extra work if necessary." "That's easy for you to say with your big salary." "My salary that I earned by working through weekends and holidays, by pursuing higher education, by making sacrifices." I met her gaze steadily. "The same opportunities have always been available to you." She scoffed. "I have children. That was your choice." The words came out harsher than I intended. I softened my tone. "I'm not saying it's easy, I'm saying it's not my responsibility." We sat in silence for a moment, watching the kids through the window. They were laughing, trying to catch drips from their cones. "I do love you, Rebecca," Carol finally said. "We all do, in our way." Their way, conditional, transactional, not the way I needed to be loved. "I love you too." It was true, despite everything. "But I can't keep doing this, it's killing me." She nodded slowly, perhaps understanding for the first time that this wasn't a negotiation. It was a boundary. I treated the kids to another round of ice cream before they left, hugged them tight, promised to send birthday presents. I wasn't cutting them off, they were innocent in all this. As they walked away, Ben looked back and waved, his little face serious. "Bye, Aunt Rebecca, don't be lost again, okay?" My heart cracked. I wasn't the one who was lost. 3 months passed, fall turned to winter. The holidays approached, my first without family obligations. I bought myself a small Christmas tree, decorated it with ornaments I chose, not ones laden with childhood memories, invited friends over for a potluck dinner on Christmas Eve. It was different but not terrible. On Christmas morning, I woke to an email from my father, the first direct communication from him since everything happened. "Rebecca," it began, "no dear or Merry Christmas. Your mother wanted me to reach out. Things have been difficult since you cut us off. Edward had to move back home. Carol's kids won't get much for Christmas this year. Is that what you wanted, to punish the children?" No mention of missing me at Christmas, no acknowledgement of why I'd cut them off, just more guilt. I deleted the email without responding. New Year's Eve arrived, a fresh start. I attended a party at a colleague's house, laughed more than I had in months, felt lighter. At midnight, as everyone cheered and hugged, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. It was Edward. "Happy New Year, sis. I miss you. Can we talk? I'm ready to listen." I stared at the message for a long time. Was it genuine or another attempt to reestablish the financial pipeline? I decided it didn't matter. I wasn't ready to let any of them back into my life yet. Maybe someday, but not now, not until I was strong enough to maintain my boundaries. I didn't respond. I was building a life that was truly mine, not mortgaged to support others. In April, exactly 1 year after seeing the video, I received a letter from my mother, handwritten, 10 pages long. I almost didn't open it, but curiosity won out. "My dearest Rebecca," it began, already different from my father's terse email. She wrote about how the past year had forced them to confront their behavior, how they'd taken me for granted, used me. She acknowledged the video, saying those moments haunted her now. "We were wrong," she wrote. "So terribly wrong, not just in what we said that night, but in how we've treated you for years. I have no excuse other than to say that it happened gradually. First a small loan here, then another there, until we began to expect it, to feel entitled to your success without considering the cost to you." She went on to describe how they'd adjusted to life without my support. Edward had taken 2 jobs and moved into a smaller apartment. Carol had started an online business selling crafts. They'd downsized their own home. "We're managing," she wrote. "It's been hard but necessary. We should have been doing this all along instead of depending on you." The letter continued with memories from my childhood. Good ones, times when we'd been a real family before money complicated everything. I'm not writing to ask for anything, she concluded. Only to say that I'm sorry, that we're all sorry, and that if you ever want to try again to have a relationship based on love and respect rather than financial obligation, we're ready, but only when and if you are. She signed it with love and regret, Mom. I folded the letter carefully and put it away, didn't respond immediately, needed time to process, to decide what I wanted. A week later, I sat down and wrote my own letter, not long, just 1 page. I listed every financial sacrifice I'd made for them, not to make them feel guilty but to acknowledge the reality of what had happened. I deserved that recognition. Then I wrote about the pain of discovering how they really saw me, how it had forced me to reevaluate everything I thought I knew about family and love. I don't know if we can rebuild, I concluded, but if we try, it needs to be different. I am not your ATM, I'm your daughter, your sister, a person with my own needs and dreams. If you can see me, really see me, perhaps we can start again. Slowly. I mailed the letter the next day. Then I took my dog for a long walk in my new neighborhood, breathing in the scent of spring flowers, feeling the warmth of sunshine on my face. Whatever happened with my family, I was going to be okay. I'd learned the most valuable lesson: the price of being loved shouldn't be the sacrifice of your own well-being. Some relationships cost too much, and I was finally brave enough to close the account.